Hi guys, welcome to Antique Sprinklers. It is cold as dickens outside, so we're going to do one inside this time. Fortunately, I filmed the sprinkler we're going to be looking at a few weeks ago when the weather wasn't quite so bad, but there's snow and ice on the ground now, and we're down into the teens here in the land of pleasant living. And today the topic is Rainjet. And in particular, the sprinkler we're going to look at is the Rainjet 62C. Here's the box it came in. And you'll see these sprinklers come up on places like eBay fairly regularly. They generally command a fairly decent price, but they are pretty neat. The boxes have sort of a mid-century modern feel to them in their aesthetic. Some of them even have like a picture of a split level house on them with sprinklers in the front yard, you know, some I Dream of Jeannie might have gone home to after work or something like that. I don't know why I picked I Dream of Jeannie. I might not be over that show yet from having been a child. In any event, the boxes contain performance charts for the sprinkler, installation details, and then the patterns of various sprinklers that they make. So and a little bit of an ad for why the Rainjet sprinkler is better than conventional sprinklers in their view, and they do have a point to make there that we'll get into. So before we talk about the specific sprinkler, a little bit about Rainjet. They were founded, I think, in 1952 by two guys, Gerald Fraser and John. You know, I'm not sure how to say John's last name. I'm going to give it my best shot. It's spelled H-R-U-B-Y. So I'm going to call him Hruby. That is probably not how he pronounces it, but it's the best I'm going to be able to do. And Gerald was the president of the company, John was the executive vice president, and he was the engineer who held the patents. And, he ended up with multiple sprinkler patents, fountain nozzle patents, and we'll talk about Rainjet fountains in a minute here. And, the first patent really struck at what Rainjet's proposition was going to be going forward. They were sold initially as kits that were inexpensive, and the idea was the way the Rainjet sprinkler worked, you could actually stretch the spacing on them and use fewer sprinklers. So you might have, a couple of decent-sized rectangular areas in your front lawn covered just by two sprinklers, and then the kit also included their own polyethylene pipe that they had and solvent that you would use to join the pipe together, and they were fairly inexpensive. And in fact, as a way of launching the company, they had a press release that at least some newspapers in the Los Angeles areas picked up on in the early 50s, showing John out with, I think, his wife, installing a very inexpensive irrigation system on a hillside. They felt that their sprinklers were particularly well suited to those kinds of that kind of terrain. And his first sprinkler patent, and this isn't the sprinkler we're looking at today, but it's one you might be familiar with if you have seen Rainjets before. But basically, not only does the turret of the sprinkler rise and then have multiple ports for shooting a stream out, it also rotates, and while it's rotating, it has a pendulum action to it. It wobbles back and forth, and that flings water droplets out. And so they say that you get a droplet size that's much bigger, and I've seen that, you definitely do, and that it much better approximates what rain does. So, and I'll show you pictures of the original patent for this thing, and there's even some ads that show that do a good job of graphically representing, let us say, the action of the sprinkler. And so I think a lot of people think about these guys when they think about a Rainjet sprinkler. So John also invented sprinklers that work as a part circle, and this is the one we're looking at. The 62C is a half circle. It has about a 15-foot radius. It's meant to operate around 25 or 30 psi. And down inside of it, in the turret, is the means by which the water droplet size is created, and the pendulum action actually happens internal to this thing. And you'll see it's a really, really nice distribution of water that comes out of them. And this one was also patented separately from the other sprinkler. So one of the things that I love about Rainjet is, they felt like they were, masters at getting water out of a nozzle and getting it to form specific shapes and have specific properties to it. And so they also were in the fountain business. And they made these fountain kits where you could order a fiberglass bowl of different dimensions. I think maybe 96 inches was the biggest one, and then they had one that was 48 inches, and a couple of sizes in between. And then you would fit a recirculating pump in it, a nozzle assembly, and they had optional lighting packages, and the lights became somewhat ornate. You get a bunch of different colors. You get light sequencers to show different patterns of light and combinations. And then you could also, they had a device that would sonically align the action of the lights to music. So it was really quite a production. And they had names like, Dancing Jewels and things like that. And I'll show you some catalog cut sheets of them. And so when I was selling irrigation, I sold those as well. And they also made a floating fountain. If you've ever been to a golf course and you see there's a fountain on the pond in the golf course, if you take a look at it closely, it's probably connected to a float. It's not connected to the bottom of that. And they're made to be ornamental, but they also perform an aerating function and keep the algae bloom down in those ponds and that kind of thing. So there, I did also find a YouTube channel that a few years ago, the guy, I think his name is Sailor 100 or something like that. He has some short videos of their fountains in action, and they're really neat. They're kind of kitschy, I think, but somebody must want those things in their house. So it's just kind of an interesting sideline to the irrigation they had. Rainjet survived from the early 50s into the early 80s. I think it was around 1982 when James Hardie purchased them and rolled them into Hardie Irrigation. And, so they were in business about 30 years. And it's funny, back in the late 80s when I was selling some of the Rainjet products, and I understood sort of a little bit of the backstory of the company, I thought, gosh, 1952, golly, that was a long, long time ago. Now, the same distance back in time is about 1994. So it's always nice to get a reminder of just how old one is getting. So that's the story of the company. There's a lot more to it than that, certainly. Rainjet lived on under Hardie for quite a while. You would see some overlapping products between them and Hydro Rain, especially like the controllers that they had. There was an early digital controller. I remember that pretty much every brand that Hardie had that brand on it with a different number, but it was the same controller. And so I would imagine anything that exists today from Rainjet is now part of Toro, given Toro's acquisition of the irrigation stuff that Hardie had maybe a decade ago or so. But I think you're going to enjoy watching the sprinkler in action. I think these things are really awesome. I don't know that they ever really took off commercially. I hear people talk about doing service jobs and running into them. For the first few decades of their existence, I just feel like they were sold primarily through hardware stores and garden centers to homeowners who wanted an inexpensive way to water their lawn. But they are engineering marvels in my sense, and they do put out a really nice pattern of water. And, If you like these videos, as always, please check out my playlist of other videos that I like from other content creators. Like the video so that, hit the thumbs up so that other folks can see it. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.